What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. And I got a very, very interesting topic to discuss today concerning CGC and the state of the grading industry. I always love diving into CGC. It's something that people have a lot of different points of views on, and these types of conversations can get a little intense at times. We're going to dive into something today and hopefully come away with some positive outlook. So before I get into it, please, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, take some time to do so. And of course, check out all the awesome links below, including how you can support the channel, becoming a patron of the channel via patreon.com for only $3.99 a month. You can check out the website and check out all the awesome perks and exclusives that you get, including how you could be entered into every single Patreon-only contest. I got my official merch link below as well, and of course, our comic book canon link is below where you can catch our live show every Friday night. With that being said, everyone, let's get into this. So, again, you guys know I'm involved in Facebook. I'm a member of multiple comic book groups, and I love getting into discussions. And we had an individual, and again, I'm not here to put anyone on blast or speak negatively towards any individual. We're just going to use this post as a talking point, right? So let's go into what this individual commented here. All right, let's read this together. I think CGC's lack of efficiency and turnaround time is becoming ludicrous. I shipped out 6 books on the 19th of January. They were marked delivered on January 25th, and as of today, they still haven't even been marked as received. Now, I've been submitting books for years now, and as little as a single book and up to 100 at a time, so I'm not worried about them getting around to it, but it just seems to me, though, that ever since they've started with their special private signings, he put singings, but I know he meant signings, because I don't think anyone at CGC is singing, right? Okay, ever since they started the signings and in-house appearances, etc., the turnaround time has begun to crawl. This is a focal point right here. A very good point that he's trying to make here. He goes on and states, yes, there are more people collecting and grading, but I can't help feel that it is more because rather than concentrate on grading comic books, which is the reason why the company was created in the first place, they are more concerned about maximizing their profits through all these special events. And in turn, really gums up the grading process for clients who are just trying to get their books slabbed. All right, let me break this down. First off, Theodore, great perspective. Now, whether he's wrong or right, that's not what I'm going to talk about right here. But I like his perspective. He says these wait times are kind of getting ludicrous. They're getting kind of ridiculous. But then he says why. And like I said, regardless of if it's true or not, they're very good points to ponder, right? He's saying that, I think there's more focus going to these special events and signature series instead of focusing on your standard Joe that is sending in books to get graded, through the normal process. Now, what he says here about the company, CGC, focusing more on these signature series and whatnot and events to maximize profits, that's perfectly fine. A business is there to do one thing, maximize profits, all right? Don't get fooled by anything else. That's what a business exists to do. So that's not wrong of them if that's what they're doing. But you have to do that in a right way if you're a business, because if you have another type of consumer that is being left to the wayside because you're focusing on a different type of consumer just because that set of consumers maximizes your profits more, it's really ultimately ends up being a bad business model. So are they doing that or are they not? Let's dive into it a little more, okay? So I saw a comment right here, and again, I actually agreed. This guy Peter right here commented. Big shout out to Peter. Again, no hate here, not putting on anyone on blast. But I like what Peter had to say. I agree with a lot of his sentiment, but there were some I kind of disagree with, and I kind of play devil's advocate with. So let's read what Peter had to say, all right? He says, 1, someone said CGC are receiving anywhere between 3,000 and 7,000 comics a day. I just want to, right, guys, that's insane, right? That's crazy. All right. He goes on to say, that's a ridiculous amount. It is. And they don't just arrive at once or in neat order in long boxes all ready to grade. You're talking hundreds, possibly thousands of parcels of all sizes that need to be carefully opened, cataloged, and then put in order. Yeah, very true. I agree with that 100%. He says, too, another point here. It's not just a case of hiring more staff. You can't just pick some guy off the street and then ask him to grade a Fantastic Four number one. Well, that's true when you're talking about grading employees. Even if they could hire more, they probably can't because of social distancing. If that's a thing in America, that's not really the case right now. That's I'm gonna again, he brings up a good point, but I'm not even gonna focus on that right now, because these turnaround times that really have nothing to do with the pandemic right now. I don't think their turnaround times have been actually their turnaround times have ultimately been better during the pandemic than years prior to the pandemic. Moving on to his third point. CBCS are a respected company in their own right, but have we ever thought that they are quicker and have less mistakes simply because they aren't handling the same volume? First off, I'm going to say this: the mistakes that are happening in the industry, it doesn't matter what volume you have in terms of work. You should not be making mistakes like that. I'm going to just sidetrack and state that. It's like, are iPhone, the iPhone, when Apple produces the iPhone. So are you going to say just because they manufacture more phones that we're going to be accepting mistakes? No, they need to make sure before they go to market. And I know it's kind of different, but these are man-made mistakes that really shouldn't be happening. The quality control is ridiculous, but that's a whole nother conversation. Let's go on here, guys. If anyone stopped sending, if everyone stopped sending to CGC and sent to CBCS, I could guarantee we'd see the same issues and delays. Okay. This is how I want to respond to this. CBCS really isn't that much different in wait time. I don't think, according to my knowledge. There's been some times where CBCS has had longer wait times, but I do agree with them here. Look, CGC is getting the bulk of the business in the grading industry. That's a known fact. All right? But we can't base this as an industry thing. We have to look at CGC as a business model. All right? We can't say, well, if CBCS or PGX had their type of business, they'd be making the same errors or like that's no excuse. All right? We have to look at CGC as an entity alone and saying, is their business model working appropriately? All right? This is how I responded. And after I read my response, I am going to break down in more detail how I feel about this whole thing in totality. And if this is going to be something that's negatively going to affect CGC in the future. So let's go into what I said. I said, Peter, CBCS's turnaround time isn't that much different. I do agree with everything you said here. Almost. Almost. People that work in the warehouse and in processing don't need to have grading skills. So we kind of lump that in there. Like, yeah, we don't want to hire any Joe Blow off the street to grade books, but there should be a training process for one. But you have a large workforce within CGC that does what? Work the warehouse and handles processing before the packages even get opened. You don't need grading skills to do that, all right? Let's move on here. Over the last couple of years, I spoke with 3 different employees who told me they were overworked and understaffed. That is an absolute fact. I spoke to someone in 2019. I spoke to someone in early 2020, before the pandemic, and I spoke to someone in, I think, the fall of 2020 during the pandemic. And they absolutely said they continue to get more work, and they continue to be overworked. And simply, there's no excuse. That's what somebody said to me. They said, there's no excuse. We are understaffed. That's like almost verbatim of what they told me. So that's a fact. And that's a bit alarming if you ask me. All right, let's move on here. They could absolutely hire more hands to help with processing, even with the amount of graders that they are working with. But here's the bigger issue. It's their business model that is ultimately flawed, And this is for two main reasons. All right, guys, we're going to break this down. One, fast track service. Fast track service means that if I pay a little more money, I could send my books to CGC and have them skip the lines of thousands of people that have been waiting for months already. This is problematic because it bottlenecks the majority of their customers that pay the normal fees. All right? Ultimately, a business like CGC cannot sustain profits via fast tracking alone, and since the majority of their business does not come from fast tracking, if they start losing them to competitors, their customers that is, the extra $10 per book that they get for the fast track orders will not be enough revenue to compensate for their losses in losing those regular customers. That's simple business here looking at this, guys. Okay, moving on. If they want to keep their fast track services to earn that premium revenue and keep the majority of their standard customers, they need to separate the two processes and hire a team that unloads, processes, and grades just solely fast track shipments. That way, you have a separate team that focuses solely on standard orders. And look, this is how you would do that. And I talked about this in videos past, and I use Starbucks as an example. When it comes to their online ordering, a lot of businesses are doing this where they do their online ordering. So, a Starbucks will have a person that works the shift, right? That is there specifically for online orders. So they're watching the online orders come in. They're going to their online order bar where they make the drinks, which is different from the standard bars. And they have those drinks ready for when the order comes in. But you know what they do when they don't have any online orders coming in? They shift over to help the customers that are in store and help the other staff help get through and assist the drinks and the customers that are coming in the store. So that's how you maximize overhead costs of bringing somebody else in on the floor and having to pay them an hourly wage. So let me go back to CGC example. So you want specific staffing, right, in the warehouse and possibly at least one specific grader that streamlines specifically the fast track orders. So if there was ever a time where there was no fast track orders to be processed, you know what those people would do during their shift? They would go and help out the standard orders. All right? So you're maximizing your productivity. All right? That's what CGC absolutely needs to do. But let me go on and finish my comment here. So I say this is a case where they need to spend money to make money, right? They need to add the fixed revenue in order to maintain profits long term. Right now, it seems they are more focused on maximizing profits in the short term. That can absolutely come back to bite them in the behind, right? Now, here's my second point. Their CGC Signature Series signings. This goes to what the original poster was hinting at, right? Again, similar to number one, this takes their employees, their graders, etc., away from the orders that are just sitting there for months and prioritizes another set of customers. This is why when COVID first happened and signings had stopped, turnaround time for normal orders was faster than it's been in like a decade. And I know because I submitted books during that time, it was like boom, boom, like wow. They didn't have any events. They didn't have any signature series coming in. And boy, were turnaround times just flying through the roof, all right? Continuing on here. Instead of having a specific team that handles these special events, it takes team members that it takes away their main employees and graders to then put priority on the signature orders where standard customers now have to wait even longer. So, while I ultimately agree with much of your logic, it doesn't change the fact that this business model that they are running right now is extremely problematic and will ultimately turn customers to other competitors. We've already seen a larger market share be picked up by CBCS over the last couple of years, and that's a fact. I say this as a businessman. CGC needs to recognize public perception, and they need to figure out how to evolve in some of these areas, or they are going to see a negative backlash continue to grow over time. All right. So, again, we are looking at data and facts and approaching this from a business standpoint. CGC can continue to do what they're going to do. If we keep giving them their money, they can keep having bad quality control, which I said I'm not really going to get into this video. They could keep sending you slabs with the wrong labels, with upside down labels. They could keep sending you slabs with somebody else's book. They could keep sending you slabs with little pieces of plastic in them, rattling around. They could keep sending you slabs with the grader's hair or somebody's hair in the slab. Shall I go on? They can keep doing that. And they can keep running a business model that, even though it says 50 business days, estimated turnaround time, they can hold your book for 80 to 90 business days before it comes back to you. If you didn't fast track it and you're not sending your book in for the signature series events, they can absolutely do that. But I've said this before. The power is in where we spend our money. The power is in our purchasing power. That's why they call it that. Purchasing power, people, right? I'm not blackballing CGC. I'm still, my membership renews in a couple weeks here. I'm still going to send books to CGC. But you know what I'm going to do this year for the first time? I am going to send books to CBCS. I am. I'm going to send books to CBCS to do for a couple of reasons. One, I haven't held one in person, but I am really digging what their new cases and their new labels are looking like in pictures. I'm almost liking them better in pictures, at least, than the CGC ones. I am. Especially those labels. They are looking clean. I don't need that white sticker anymore. I don't. So, but that's a whole other thing. You know, that's cosmetics and aesthetics and stuff. But I'm going to test the waters because I too am concerned with turnaround time. But like I said, look, the competitors aren't that much better. At least the main competitor with CBCS. I've heard horror stories about their turnaround times as well. But here's the thing. Us being unhappy with the turnaround times is valid because it is our money that we're spending. And it is the right of every business to understand the demand and the needs and the desires of their customers. Because the only reason a business is in business is because of their customers giving them their money. As soon as somebody decides to not give them their money, that's going to hurt their business. So every business needs to not be on a pedestal and have an ego saying, well, without us, you need us. It's that you need us mentality. No. CGC, CBCS, Walmart, any business, AT&T, big or small, the local deli, we don't need you. You need us. So all I'm trying to say here is I do feel like their CGC's business model is flawed when it comes to turnaround times. We're going to just talk specifically turnaround times. But you could say the same thing for quality control. You could say the same thing for inconsistencies in grading. You could say the same thing for their the quality of the product with all these issues, right, that I talked about, hairs and labels coming back upside down, wrong labels, all that. But specifically when we talk about turnaround time, I do believe there's an issue with their business model. I do believe that, and again, I don't have all the facts. I'm not there in the warehouse knowing this. But from the facts that I do have, I can make an educated hypothesis to state that right now CGC is, I don't know what their thinking is, but I'm going to assume their thinking is like, we don't need to spend the money right now. We're good. We want to maximize our profits. And I do feel like they're a bit big-headed in that sense. They think that they control the market so much that they're almost invulnerable. That's an assumption, but I think it's a valid assumption to make. I do feel like they are focused more on the short term because I feel feel like they're impenetrable. They're looking at, okay, how can we maximize our profits right now? Instead of how are we going to maximize our profits by keeping loyal customers year after year, 5 to 10 years from now? I don't think they're thinking like that. So what are they doing? They're taking their limited staff, they're taking their short staff that they've stated that it is a fact, and they're saying, look, don't go, don't, those books have already, those packages and those books from those customers that are paying the standard turnaround time prices, we're going to let their books and their orders sit on the shelves. Guys, we have Todd McFarlane coming, or we have Natalie Portman coming, or whoever. So all hands on deck. They're paying the big money. We're getting the publicity, the profit margin percentage-wise for the work that we are doing with these signature signings is much larger than our standard orders. And the same goes for Fast Track. I truly feel that they need to separate their task force when it comes to those who handle their Fast Track and those who handle their standard orders, because we're getting bottlenecks. That's my take on the situation. I'm always thinking ahead, and I truly believe that we are at a pivotal point right now where the grading industry is still in its infancy. We're only 21 years in. CBCS is a growing market. They are growing, and they are gaining more of that market share. They are. All right? And I think PGX has even gained a bit of larger market share over the last couple of years, but they're extremely far behind. And then I always love to shout out EGS. And EGS is doing their thing, and they might not be right now like any type of threat to CGC, but Tony over there with EGS, I trust in what they're doing, and I think him getting into the market speaks volumes within itself, and I do believe he is going to grow, even if it's small steps at a time. So again, CGC is not impenetrable, and I want CGC to continue to have success. I want to continue to give them my business, but I do feel that CGC needs to, the executives there and whoever is making the decisions, I feel like they need to open their ears a little bit and listen to their consumer base and listen to the consumers in the customers and the comic book collectors within the industry. I think they need to listen a little better, and then I think they need to sit at the round table and take that constructive criticism and say, okay, what can we do to restructure, even if it's going to take a little bit of capital, a little extra, cost right now, but that can ultimately bring us better profit margins 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. Every good business does that. Starbucks did it when they, around the 2008, 2009, 2010, they started shutting down their stores. They were growing so fast, and they said, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We're going to shut down some stores. We're going to restructure the ones that we have, and we're going to spend money. They took losses. They took quarterly losses for like 2 years because they knew they were investing in the future, not that short-term profit. And after those losses, within those 2 years, you know what they started doing? They started seeing the largest gains that they ever saw in their history. And then you know what they started doing? Opening more stores now, faster than at a rate faster than they were before. Restructuring is not a bad thing. I think CGC has some restructuring to do. Is it doomsday? No. CGC is still the company that folks go for. Again, I'm not here to blackball CGC. I just wanted to put my business perspective out there, and I wanted to let you guys take that in and let you decide for what you think. So, with that being said, I'm going to wrap up the video on that note, and I want all of you watching to leave your comments and your thoughts below. What did you think of these individuals talking it up in this forum? What did you think of their takes? What did you think of my take? And are you giving CGC your business? Are you giving CBCS your business? Are you switching from one to the other? Are you still using PGX? Or are you looking at those up-and-comers like EGS and saying, I like what they're doing, I'm willing to give them my money, rather than the big, the big dog that is CGC. With that said, guys, please, again, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, take some time to do so. Thank you all for watching, and until next time.
I ain't in it for rapping. This that our money? Hell nah. Here. Legendary music in the making. Oh no. Young Noble. What's the outlaws? I'm moving way too fast to stop now. A renegade got your city on lockdown. We mortal souls, our time here is temporary, but what we leave behind is monumental.